Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 164 of Kouryer podcast. Our today's guest is Juliestrator. She's a 3D artist, Twitch streamer from Tbilisi, Georgia. And before we start with the questions and stuff like that, let me just say the one important thing. In the contact section of the episode, you can see the ID to her Instagram, her ArtStation link, a link to her Twitch channel because she regularly streams on Twitch with her developments, basically the stuff she learns along the way of becoming a game dev. That's actually a really cool niche that's been happening in the streaming world, like people like devlogging on Twitch or YouTube, their whole process of learning how to make a game. And that's actually a super exciting thing, honestly. And if you're interested in that, you can always go follow her on Twitch and also her YouTube channel. And with that being said, let's jump into the first basically default signature question I ask everyone basically on the podcast, which is give us a little introduction on how we got into the world of visual arts and design. Basically, what was the moment that made you go, I want to be an artist and nothing else?
Okay. First of all, hi, and thank you for having me here. So how I wanted to... Well, I guess it's really difficult to say because I don't know if you know, but I started architecture for 7 years in uni, and after that, decision to do art versus architecture was a difficult one, obviously, because of it. Because I don't know, it feels a little bit like 7 years wasted. So yeah, the decision wasn't an easy one. So I wouldn't say it was one moment where it clicked. It was just a slow realization that it wasn't more about the art, that I want to do art. It was more of that I don't want to do architecture. So yeah, I was moving actually towards 2D art slowly, and I was trying to learn concept art for about a year after uni, but it wasn't really working for me. I felt like I had to make myself sit down and draw and I don't know, I felt like I didn't have to be pushing myself that much for something that I'm supposed to be enjoying. But then actually Blender's update number 2.83 came out, and everybody was like, hey, Blender is actually much better now, you should try it. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. And I felt like I was enjoying 3D art much more. And I didn't have to push myself that hard to do it. And then I started streaming, and that's when it kicked in. It was, I don't know, it's about consistency. It's not about the results you produce. It's if you sit down almost every day in the beginning, when I started streaming art, I was streaming basically every day. If you continue doing something every day, it just sort of becomes a habit, and that's how it started, I guess.
All right. That's actually kind of fascinating because I think there was another guest recently on the podcast that were on the same boat as you and me as well, because I kind of was literally, the way you described that when you said, I shouldn't have to push myself for something that I supposed to be enjoy. You know what I mean? I was the same with the 2D concept art and stuff like that. I was trying to be an environment concept artist, but then I tried Blender 2 years ago. I kind of was lost, and I'm kind of pity because I should have forced myself. The UI wasn't as user-friendly as today is, but I kind of regret because I think if I forced myself at that time and learned it, I would have been much more advanced where I am today compared to now. And and even, of course, for me, million other people, it started with the donut tutorial and stuff like that. It's basically Enterprise. He's the man. And I'm trying to to get a job I'm basically trying to practice my 3D modeling skills, so I later become a 3D modeler in the industry. I'm kind of in a 3D journey as well, but I just love learning new stuff in Blender because there's it's a little bit of everything in it. And a lot of people might say, all right, you can be a knower of many but master of none. I get it. it's not super professional in every aspect, but it's still like it's a super good introductory like software for junior 3D artists. Like because you, for example, gets acquainted with all the shading nodes and all of that, and you're like, maybe I should go learn Substance Painter. And you get like good with composition. You learn other stuff like with rendering. Maybe all right, maybe what's stronger than Cycles? And it's like a gateway to a lot of things in 3D, and I think that's the power of Blender, in my opinion. And
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
yeah, and all right. So I mean, of course, in the introduction, I mentioned that you're a 3D artist, but I want to ask you now, what is your main branch of design that you're focusing on? And tell us about your experience from the start of it until now, and what led you to it. You know?
Oof. Main branch is difficult actually because I don't know. Like my whole thing is that I started when I started streaming. Like I had basically zero experience. Well, like virtually zero experience in Blender, maybe like a month of it. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I decided to start trying like everything. I would say that's like mostly I do like environments right now, but that's partially because like I just don't do characters, so I'm not good at it. So I'm less likely to try to make characters, but I definitely want to overcome that. So yeah, it's just like I don't know. For me, it's about trying all the different areas of it. Like I tried sculpting a little bit. It's not something I do often because when I'm learning Blender, when I'm practicing Blender, it is like I'm still thinking about game dev because I want to make games, and I've been also learning programming on streams. I've been learning Unity. I've been learning Unreal just to like compare them. So yeah, I don't know. Like I don't try to like force myself to be just the environment artist because like I'm not sure like I want to be just like long term. I want to be like a 3D artist in a game company who just does 3D art. I would rather be like an indie developer, and like my goal is to be able to make a prototype of a game with the visuals, with some basic programming. And then then I would love to like be able to maybe hire people who would be helping me with like building the game. So yeah, I don't really want to be good at just like one thing, like what you were saying before. Like I'm fine being a master of none. I don't have to call myself a master of anything. I can just I'm just doing like what I enjoy. And I'm like, oh, this looks fun. Like, I don't know, like I'm scrolling Twitter and see this like cool art of somebody. I'm like, oh, I haven't tried this technique or like this area. I'm like, oh, let me try that. So yeah, just trying everything, I guess. But definitely like with background in architecture, environment art is where I'm like most like that's my like comfort zone. So I tend to do that more.
Yeah, I mean that's actually, and because here's the thing, most of us artists like have our own like personal like IPs in our head, like different characters or worlds or stories that you want to tell. But I think what you said about like becoming an indie developer. I mean, you need to reach a certain state of stability in your life, and by stability, I don't mean like full financial stability at all. Like I mean, as long as you have a basic roof and like basic housing and Wi-Fi, I mean that's what I'm talking about. And once you have that, I guess, and not have to worry about rent and all that much, yeah, of course you can go with indie, and I think that's a lot of people enjoy. But I mean, of course, at the other side of this spectrum, there are a lot of people who actually enjoy being like in office and working with in a studio. Like, I mean, that's completely fine. But I mean, yeah, I mean, personally, I have a lot of games and ideas and stories that I want to tell someday, and I guess I'll have that. They have to wait for them to be developed in my spare time. But right now, I'm trying my best to get into a studio, like to work professional, like in a year. I hope so. And yeah, because that stability in the future will that could lead me into like more opportunities to work on my different IPs and stuff like that. Yeah, but what do you have any sort of stories or games right now in mind while you're learning programming and art and all of that? Like, do you have a vision right now of what you want to make?
You know what? I'm actually like I realized that I wanted to make games when I started watching videos of a channel called Extra Credits, and they were like all about game design. And they were very big on like fail faster, iterate, like, don't try to make your first game that big game project that you always wanted to make. So I don't like, I don't even think about this like the dream game that I want to make one day. I'm mostly like thinking of like what small, like, minimum viable product game I can make now with my current skill, and like maybe add like one extra layer of like I would be learning this and practicing everything I know already. So I'm mostly thinking in those terms. Like I started making games that are like super simple. Like there was like the most basic platformer ever that I made in Unreal. It was just like like you wake up in the middle of nowhere. There are like mountains around that I sculpted and like made everything, and like you literally need to just jump over like 3 platforms and get a rotating golden croissant. That's it. Like that's the game. But like that was. A lot for me, like to like when you're an absolute beginner, like it's a lot of work. And also I guess maybe because I'm streaming it, I don't like, I guess it's more interesting for people to see you work on like a lot of different projects versus um, just one thing the entire time. So I'm trying to keep it more, and like it's just my attention span too. Like I try to you know be done with the project, because at a certain point I'm like, oh, I've been working just like for so long on it, and what's like extra week to like perfect it a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then it just I don't know, and then I just burn out. So yeah, I try not to bite off more than I can chew, you know.
Yeah, obviously.
So just
And
small things.
uh, yeah. And by the way, shout out to Extra Credits. I remember I discovered their YouTube channel in 2014, and they were one of the main reasons that I finally dropped out of my mechanical engineering degree. By the way, true story. Um, and here's the thing, like, that's such an important, like, point that you mentioned about, like, making your first game just to, like, just make it like a platform, a box that can just jump over things. I mean, that's good for the first game, and that's like a misconception for a lot of people. Like there's this dev logger as well. I don't know if you know him. He's like a bald Australian guy. Like he makes like these chaotic devlog videos of his indie game. I don't know if you know him.
Yeah, I think I've seen him.
And his profile
You're
picture is
probably talking
him
about somebody. Yeah,
screaming, something like that. He's a pretty chaotic, funny guy.
I've actually seen him as a guest on Barge's channel, I think.
Oh,
He's
really?
also, yeah, probably it was him.
Yeah, it was him. Yeah,
Not
and
100% sure.
and he also did the same thing. I think he kind of said it himself that he kind of bites more than he could chew. And I think he's kind of high hiatus, if I'm not mistaken. Like I'm not following him consistently, so I'm not sure. Like I think at the last time I heard any of him was months ago. But yeah, devlogging is definitely such an interesting genre that's been developing. Like there's so many like interesting takes that's been going on. Like one of the famous ones is I think Danny Milkman. I think most people know him. He made the Crab game and a bunch of other games.
Yeah.
And like games like I don't know if it's been like devlogged, but Human Fall Flat. Have you played that?
Yeah, definitely. I love that game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, me and my friends, like it gets so chaotic, with such bare minimum basic, like game mechanics. And here's the thing, when we first like uploaded in that game, I was like, oh my god, they made this in Blender because of all the default meshes that I can find in all around the game. And yeah, I mean, with just a bare minimum, you can make such fine games, and it doesn't have to be super complicated, or just try to find a nice, fun game loop or mechanic, then you can exploit it, along the way. Just the basic, like, minimum mechanic of just grabbing things, like fall flat. And there's so many things you can do in the game. It's crazy. And it doesn't have to be complicated. Like, for example, I'm going to say it. One of the IPs that I can't develop it now. It might be a couple of years down the line. It's a racing game, all right? It's kind of it's kind of paradoxical because I hate driving, but I love racing games. But the thing is that, like, I had this concept for like a racing game, like one of the people in the game, it doesn't have a car, it doesn't have a hoverboard, it doesn't have anything. You know what they have? It's just a broken piece of metal from a spaceship, and he just throws bombs under it to propel himself forward. That's how he functions. Like then from that, I try to like make the actually dynamic of it and make just a solo game that just does that, as a practice. And it was so hard, like just trying to like implement that the physics engine that like yeah, that's why you should even start with the bare minimum at the start to build up your knowledge from time to time in that game engine that you're getting experience from. And I was wondering, is your game going to be in the same graphics as the works you're making on Blender? Of course, I mean, there was also like, by the way, I'm just going to give a shout out as well. Like there's 2 links in the captions as well from NVIDIA playlist. She made some, tutorials there. If you want, you can check them out. Are your games going to be set in that type of environments, or do you have other different plans?
I don't know. I guess like there are definitely limitations if you like look at some of my works. Like I guess like Gravity Falls bedroom or like Rick and Morty bedroom, garage. They're definitely way too high poly. Because like it's a game one person is gonna make, or like at least to begin with, right? So yeah, I probably need to think about like the performance. I need to, so it would probably be a little bit more low poly, but I like the aesthetic. Like I like when it's all silly and just everything is puffy, everything is like, but it's not necessarily like I'm not even 100% sure. Like I don't know. Like right now, I'm not really thinking about like one big game project. So when that happens, maybe I would be like, oh, I want to like make a moody, I don't know, sort of horror game, like like what was the game? Hitchhikers something. I don't know.
Mm,
Never mind.
all right.
But yeah, I'm not sure yet. But it's definitely more low poly than like sculpted beams and stuff.
Yeah, even like here's the thing. There was this character you made, Little Shroom Spirits. Like it looks kind of like perfect. Like because I don't know why. Because it looks so cute. By perfect, I mean you wanna hug it. Basically, it looks so cute. It
Aw.
inflicts that kind of emotion. And yeah, I think that could be a character for like a Rayman type 3D 2D platformer. And I mean
Yeah.
your graphic could fall into that. And I think one of the standing points of a lot of new indie games, especially, is like unique graphic styles. I mean, yeah, you could even use like very like common niches when it comes to like game mechanics, like a simple 2D platformer, like Rayman or Dead Cells, or just the whole formula. But that, like, for example, if you take, for example, a certain art style and apply to it and it looks visually appealing, I mean, that could be a complete selling point. People, you would be surprised because you remember the game Braid from 2008, right?
Yeah.
I literally, like, sometimes I just download and play it for the music or graphic. I don't care if I'm just scratching my brain for 15 minutes to solve a puzzle. Like, I just enjoy the game. Like, it's kind of weird, but that's true. Like, graphics matter. Like, there was another game, Sable. Have you heard about it? It's a 3D,
No, I
recently
don't think
released.
I do.
Check it out, by the way. The
Okay.
graphics is so unique and appealing. I love it. And I think that's going to be one of the major breakthroughs in video games. That's the application of like interesting, unique art styles, which I think is
Mhm.
super important. Like just look at Valorant. Why do you think this? Like some of the skins. By the way, you play Valorant or anything? Have you played it?
Actually, yes. I,
No.
uh, I
Good.
I don't know if you know. I used to stream games for about 2 months. I started on Twitch by playing games, actually streaming games. So yeah, I played some Valorant during that time.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Some of the skins that come by, like that comic style kind of skin that has like,
Mhm.
old Marvel Comics, DC Comics style of like graphics to it. Like, what do you think that, for example, sold a lot because of the visual aesthetic of it? It was kind of different than all of the other things. And it's same with games. And in that regards, what are some of your favorite video games you've played? I mean,
Ooh.
both recently and all time? Like, I know, hard question, but
Okay.
tell
Okay.
us.
So, starting with recently, Stanley Parable Deluxe Edition just came out. It was amazing. I don't know, like I love first person games, I guess, but like it was hilarious. I loved it. Like the first Stanley Parable, like the original Stanley Parable, obviously too. I also really like Superliminal. I think like not enough people talk about Superliminal. It's absolutely amazing. Um, Art style wise, actually, It Takes Two was a big inspiration for me because it was like, it was this like, well, it was third person, right? But it was this like adventurous, very like so many environments, so interesting, and in this stylized, like it had this stylized look. I loved it. Like it was so good. And obviously, I like, well, I probably like you probably know that I'm gonna say Nintendo games, because like I'm definitely like I don't know, everything is. I just like the sense of adventure. I like Mario Odyssey was absolutely amazing. Um, I don't know, Captain Toad. I had like lots of fun with that. Just. Mm, I guess also I have to mention Hearthstone because I've played a lot of Hearthstone when I was starting to play games. And I'm probably forgetting like something very obvious, something that I love, and later after the podcast, I'm going to, why didn't I say that? But there's probably something I'm forgetting.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. And I was kind of noticing something when I was also going through some of your works. And speaking of Valorant, as you know, like on Twitter, like, Valorant art is super popular. And there's also a lot of amazing artists that do, works on, like, just fan arts of Valorant. And by the way, a lot of them get hired by Riot. By the way, to anyone hearing podcasts, I'm going to give you some hope. If you actually do something good, it doesn't have to be art. It could be writing. It could be like even reporting about the lore, analyzing the lore of a game. If you're actually good, in fact, Cyprenel, I think that was his name. He's a famous like Valorant lore analyzer on Twitter and YouTube. He got hired by Riot like recently, and that's kind of cool. I mean, that companies do that. Like Sega does that as well a lot, but not Nintendo. Nintendo just sues you, like goes into legal war with you if you do a fan art of it. So not fan art, but make a mod of a game or something. And I was just gonna say, like, while I was going through your work and with the aesthetic, I was thinking, like, if you could, for example, do dioramas of like different like key places of maps, like, yeah, I think it could actually pop off on Twitter because no one does that. I mean, they do a lot of characters, but not environments, and people
Mm-hmm.
love like a good sense of I mean, it's kind of weird to say nostalgia because it's been just 2 years, but trust me, those will, even just for CS:GO maps right now. Let's say CS:GO, like certain like areas of the map that's so like iconic by now. Like if you could capture it like with your kind of arsenal, I think it could really pop off like on Twitter, and I think a lot of people would support it. You know,
Yeah, speaking of games that I forgot, it was Overwatch, of course.
nice.
Um,
All right.
so I had this idea, like this is what you like exactly what you're talking about. I thought of making like little dioramas that represent like very like tiny that represent different maps in Overwatch. Um, but it's I don't know, it's difficult. Like my thinking is like, how am I gonna make it better? Like Overwatch already like looks so good. Like I think Overwatch I'm all for, this 80-20 rule, right? Where you spend reasonable amount of time and get reasonably good results and you don't go further. And Overwatch is definitely like it's definitely not something like I can make like visually, right? So I can definitely go like with a different style. But also, like I feel like maybe um the audience is going to be like, well, yeah, you know it's a 3D thing that we've already seen in 3D. So I guess when I was learning Substance Painter, I made Wally, um, and it seemed like like I loved it, like I loved making it and I loved Wally, but it seems like people are usually like, well, it's Wally, we've seen Wally. So when I'm making fan art of something, I like to take something that was originally 2D, um, So, like I made Room from Simpsons, from Steven Universe, Gravity Falls, Rick and Morty. And I love that because you can gather like a lot of references, and it's like this whole like spatial thinking is all on you, because if you like take screenshots from like different episodes, you can definitely, like, especially like with a progression like from different seasons, you can definitely see that like things move like a lot, and like this room wouldn't make any sense if you like, because you're looking from just one side and then you turn around and then like there's something on like in the place, like there's, I don't know, a cupboard in the place of a table or something. So like I like the challenge of making making something that was not 3D before into 3D, you know.
Oh yeah, then that in itself is super challenging, especially if you have just like reference from one side of the thing that you're trying to 3D model. And because I've experienced that, it's kind of hard because sometimes you're like, oh my god, how much should I like stretch it, like on x-axis, y-axis, like is it good? And oh god, yeah, it's a nightmare if you have like enough references. I mean, I guess that's makes the process a whole lot easier. But if you don't, yeah, that's gonna be a problem. But the fun thing about like Valorant is you can actually pick a map and just make a custom game and go explore all the nooks and crannies of maps by yourself. But it's actually
Yeah.
for a time for environment sketching practice, because I couldn't go out because of the lockdown. I swear I'm not kidding. Like I have proof of that. I would go like, on ghost mode in different maps and just put the camera in a certain way, the character that I was playing, and I would just start sketching like I was there. And yeah, that was kind of cool as well. And the thing is that you mentioned also Substance Painter, by the way. Like I was wondering, like aside from Blender, what other like softwares you use in your 3D pipeline?
I think Substance Painter, like I'm yet to get better at Substance Designer, but I think Substance Painter and Substance Designer are sort of necessary if you're using Blender for like game dev, versus like things like ZBrush I don't use, because for me sculpting in Blender is definitely good enough. Like I'm enjoying it, but I think in terms of like texture painting, Blender is lacking a little bit. So yeah, that's why I use Substance. But in general, like my workflow is like Blender based. Like I don't like when you need to, switch between different programs, because you would need to make a little like small change, then you need to export, import, see that you needed another change. So yeah, I try to use Blender for like as many things as I can, and with Blender getting better and better like at everything, and yet to try geometry nodes, I think they could be used for like sort of level design, because actually, well, obviously, like besides Blender, I use game engines when I'm making not just illustrations, but like try to make games. And I've used both Unity and Unreal. Haven't tried Godot, but yeah, I don't know what else I'm using. I guess I'm using PureRef. That's an amazing software that lets you gather references, and it's great. It's not exactly for 3D, but it's definitely an essential like part of my workflow.
Yeah, exactly. And I was kind of wondering, like, here's like an interesting question I ask everyone, and I know it might be a little bit challenging, but here it goes. Who are some of your favorite artists and designers that have inspired you the most?
Oh, okay. Well, you just go to my Instagram and you just look who I follow, and like all those 1,000 people, all those are great, inspiring artists.
Best answer, honestly. The most smartest answer someone can. Because yeah, I mean, the point of this question, actually, this question and one of the next questions that I'm going to ask in like a couple of minutes. I'm not going to say what it is.
Mm-hmm.
The point is that the artist, the guest that's coming on a podcast, they shouldn't know the questions beforehand, because when I put you on the spot, the first answer that you give is the real answer, because if you have if you have time to plan out your answers, they're right, but they're not as real as when you're on the spot and your subconscious gives the answer. That's the point.
Yeah,
But
but then you're like, oh, I wish I said something smarter, and I don't know if you know, but Mr. Beast donated to me once, and
whoa, really?
I'm still, yeah, and I'm
Holy
still
shit.
thinking about when he was leaving. He asked like, what do you want to say for like to everyone? And I don't think I said anything smart, so I don't think he included that in the video. But later I was like, oh fuck, I should. Oh, sorry, I don't know. I'm not sure
No, you can.
if
Yeah,
I
no
should
worries.
have said
I'm
it.
not
Sorry.
sponsored by anyone. Yeah,
Oh,
go ahead.
okay. Yeah, I was like, oh, I should have talked about Blender Foundation, Blender Fund. I was like, oh no, I should have said that. So like, still to this day, I
Haunts
remember
you.
that. I was like, should have answered better. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, that must be well. And yeah, were you in the crafts and like thing category, or you were in gaming category?
Well, actually, I did. I think in general, I think I did under 10 IRL streams where I was walking around Moscow at the time. And that one was when I was in a grocery store. So I was in just chatting category.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, actually, I had someone else on the podcast who Mr. Beast didn't donate it, by the way, but he was like streaming. He had like two viewers. He was streaming Overwatch or something. No, not Overwatch. Sorry, Art. Ojan, was his name, and someone just suddenly out of nowhere donated 500 UK pound to him, and it was like,
Wow.
what? And yeah, I mean, so for anyone who's listening who've been thinking about Twitch streaming, I mean, go ahead, you might be the next one, Mr. Bistro's by. And yeah, honestly, the future of streaming is kind of like I think bright from in my perspective. Not I don't know about gaming that much, but in terms of other categories, I think it's going to be much more trendier, especially when it comes to crafting and art and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I think right now, in the past couple of years, we've been at an age of like that's literally the kids have been growing up with technology, and they haven't grown up to be teenagers yet. And when they do and they grow up, they may, of course, the entertainment is going to be different, in terms of anything. For example, you're an artist. Right now, we're artists. We love to watch YouTube videos. We love to watch every single tutorial we find and love, and put them in our watch later list and never look at them for a long time. But for example, maybe in the future, the trend will become more in live streaming. Because here's the thing, with videos, you can all script everything, you can do everything beforehand. But when, for example, there's someone, a master, for example, imagine like as a scenario, Andrew Price is streaming on Twitch, all right? And he's working, and beforehand he announces, all right, I'm going to work on this, experiment with some geometry nodes, whoever wants to like, hop in, come fine. And the amount of people who are using Blender in a couple of years, or not just Blender, in 3D in general, and art, digital CG and digital arts, is going to be a lot more than it is now. So I think the trend will change, and whoever jumps on the board right now will have a future, like better future in terms of streaming in that area. And
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
It's not just about the future, even. Like I think, like I don't regret streaming my like art journey. Even like I started without knowing like Blender or anything like that I know now. And I don't regret that at all. Like, I think the best thing about streaming is that it gives you consistency because, like there are people who are expecting you to stream and you're like, okay, I'm going to, open Blender today. Whereas like, if it wasn't for streaming, you wouldn't have probably like not every day, at least me. And the second best, or I don't know, maybe it's the first best, but the community that you meet, that you I guess create, like there are so many absolutely amazing people. Like, by the way, if you're watching this and if you never knew that Twitch has like science and technology, software development, or art category, there are like amazing people there, and it's amazing. Like it's so cool to meet so many people who are experienced and who have worked on like I don't know, like I have a friend who I met like who worked on Forza and like on a lot of like other games and like in big studios, and you meet a lot of indies and you meet a lot of people who are just starting and like who you can share this journey with. It's definitely very cool. Yeah, and they're like already, people who are very famous, like Jonathan Blow is streaming on Twitch as well. Like he's the creator of Witness, so it's basically, sort of like if Andrew Price would stream Blender, like there's Jonathan Blow streaming game dev. So and probably somebody who I'm forgetting right now too. But yeah, definitely absolutely worth it.
Yeah, and here's the thing, there's like, not just in art, like in every facet or category and just any field in life, if you go ahead, you see different personalities, right? Different type of people. And I mean, surprisingly for me, especially in Blender community, not just an first art community, then Blender community a second, I think. There are a lot of real people, like, people with no layers of bullshit in front of them. So when they say, hey, I love your work, they mean it, or if you, for example, want to ask them something, they're super humble. They always provide like full answers, basically cool people in general. I define them as cool, like, humble, love their craft, love their passion, and just want to share that passion or love with other people who are interested. And I've been like, so fortunate to meet a lot of those people on my road to podcasting and also just in general in my art journey. And I think, as you said, it's super important when it comes to streaming, not just in streaming in general. Of course, streaming is one of those things that's going to, like, like it or not, elevate your, what was the word in English? I forgot. Basically, elevate your activity so much that you can find more people. That's basically what I'm trying to say. I mean, of course, you can go into different Discord servers and do all this, but when it comes to like actually face to face, streaming and stuff, it's, I think, much more an active medium, and you can find the community that you really like, enjoy working in. You can find, cool people, as you said, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth a try for anyone who's interested. And also, I kind of want to ask you something else, which is, what are you working on right now that you can tell us about? I mean, of course, if there's no NDAs involved or anything like that, what are you doing right now?
Well, actually, right now, like I'm helping with one company with something, so that I can't talk about. But right now, I guess like I had a bit of a break in art, and I'm getting back into it right now. And actually, I'm trying to get back into streaming. I'm trying to get back into using Blender regularly, and I'm thinking of my YouTube channel more. Like in the like after like taking a break from streaming, I realized, well, I guess like I knew that before too, but I realized like how important YouTube is, because Twitch stores like VODs for 60 days if you're a partner. Yeah, and on YouTube, like they stay forever. Like here's your portfolio of like educational content, not just because like I also enjoy that side, not just making art, but maybe maybe teaching people a little bit, maybe just sharing like my experience. So I guess maybe like my big next project, or maybe current too, is going to be my YouTube channel, and I'm just gonna like like art wise I don't work on like one I try not to. Sometimes I make one, or like make one picture for like a month, but or maybe more, but should have like realistically I should have just given up at some point, said that's good enough and just moved on. But yeah, like I try not to pick like giant projects for art, but I guess like a big project now is going to be my YouTube channel.
All right, awesome. And what area beside the area you're working at right now, which is of course art and Blender and 3D and all that, would you be interested to explore and learn in the future? Basically, what other passions or hobbies you have that you want to pursue once you got more like your stability and free time and stuff like that?
Wow. That reminds me of a meme where it's like a person is asking another person, like, what do you do? And they're like, well, I'm drawing. And that's like, what do you do in your free time? Like I'm drawing. And, basically, I don't know, like I like doing 3D art. Like I like making games. I like learning how to make games. And that's basically what I do. So I'm not even sure. Like I just want to get better at it. I want to like actually make those games and actually make some maybe Blender tutorials. Maybe one day I kind of want to make like a introduction to Blender course, even though like I understand like there are a lot of those, but like some people like ask me on Instagram and like I try to help them and I try to be like, oh yeah, you can do this, you can do that. I usually tell them to join our Discord because like there are more people who can help there. But yeah, like maybe having like this one like series of videos that would help a lot of people that they can start with. Like I guess like my experience working like making videos for NVIDIA was very cool. Like I enjoyed it, and yeah, maybe like going more into like education route. Like even though like I don't know, it's very difficult for me to say like I want to teach people because like well I'm just trying things, I'm just learning things as I go too. But yeah, like when people ask me something about like the most basic Blender things that I'm like kind of comfortable with now, I'm like, oh well, I guess I do know some Blender, so that's still surprising to me that I can help someone. But if I can, I'd love to focus more on that.
Yeah, exactly. And well, we reached the final section and question of the podcast, which is called final words. All right, let me explain what that means. I know it sounds a bit dramatic. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So instead of like explaining this, I'm gonna explain a scenario. All right, because that's I think in my experience in the podcast, most guests understand the situation that way better. All right. Here it is. Imagine. All right, we're in a space station. All right, and you're stuck in a escape pod, like a space pod or something. And there's a countdown. You're going to be launched in 3 to 4 minutes into the outer edges of space. All right. And here's the thing: you realize, oh shit, there's no way to escape. And well, at that situation, you're like, all right, if this is going to be my last moments that I could say anything, express myself, I'm gonna say a bunch of stuff. What are those bunch of stuff? Tell us. That's the point of this question. It
What
could
I'm
be
gonna
about
say?
anything. Yes.
Wow, wow. Who am I saying this to if I'm
To
on a
anyone,
space station?
yeah, actually, to anyone who might be, you're basically recording a tape, like
Oh, okay,
those
okay. For
holotapes in
posterity.
Fallout, remember? And yeah, to anyone who might be
Mm,
listening in the like find it.
wow. I don't know. I would probably say something silly, but wow, I have no idea. Um, hmm. Wow, that's a difficult question. Um, you see, like, if I like, why would I? Like, why would I? Like, just be like, okay, this is what I learned from my life, and people are gonna be like, well, so what? Like, what do we care? So I would probably not be trying to drop any wisdom on people because they would be like, well, who is this person we don't care about? I don't know. But I would probably be just, thinking about my life to myself, knowing that, nobody else would care about it. So I would just be like, oh, okay. Hopefully, I would be like, oh, okay, I just had fun and I did my best and it's okay. And I don't know. I don't really think about like sharing any wisdom because like when was the last time you were like heard an old person tell you their experience and you were like, oh, okay, now I definitely believe them without without making that mistake myself, without going through that myself. So I don't know, like I would rather try to share something while I'm still alive and while I'm still kicking without like leaving it all to the last moment of my life. That's for just just for me or for like the closest people if they would be with me there.
All right, but let's say that people care. If what's just one piece of wisdom that if you imagine people would care, just one.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I guess. I guess that it's. I guess that you can try things. You don't need to be good at things. You can just try things, and if it's fun, you can do it. Um, that's about it. I don't know.
I mean, that was a good answer, honestly. Like, just try things for the fun of it. I mean, don't need to worry about, like, if you're gonna make a job out of it or something. I mean, that's a good thing, honestly. And I mean, here's the thing, like, you mentioned actually an interesting point. Yeah, I mean, maybe the notion is that everyone like listens to someone's advice if they usually like achieved a certain amount of status or money or something, or I don't know, just as you said, like, when was the last time you heard someone, of some wise old, hermit in the jungle or something type of like that you actually listen to his or her words that, um, but actually, you would be surprised. I think that's this question is one of the most important questions that I've been asking for, like 70 something episodes. I started this question from episode 75, and I always love the answer because the answers that that I always hear is basically the culmination of experience of the like experience of the perception that person's life, which is always like in general, like I'm fascinated with humans in general, like psychology and stuff like that, and the answers you might be shocked, but a lot of people give really interesting answers, and I always make those answers into the third person on Instagram. So if you went to the Kouryer podcast Instagram page, you see like in the third post of everyone is like just a text, all right, and that's the answer to their question. And if you could just go quickly look at them, you will be kind of surprised. I was like, huh, you actually, like, I'm not kidding, you get a lot of like good perception about life in general when you see it from other people's lenses. And not just with that, like one of the philosophies of the podcast is like listening to people's journey, regardless of where they are at it, because everyone has a unique perspective in the end. Anyone who's, and here's the thing, you might be saying, "Oh, Ramtun, so you're just going to ask everyone for their perspective." I mean, that's going to create value. No, I'm asking anyone who's actively working on their art journey. That's different, and that's been the whole goal. And by the way, your answer is still is I think it's a wonderful answer. I mean, to be honest, because just and it's because if it's simplicity, you might think, oh, it's not that complicated or noteworthy. But no, I mean, there's sometimes the best answers.
It's for sure complicated. It's for sure complicated. Like if you're streaming and you're like just starting to learn programming, for example, you'd be surprised how many people join your chat and be like, "You're doing this wrong. You should have like read all these like books before. You shouldn't be trying things," or like. All that. Like, it's very difficult to just try things that you're not good at, and with all the like people judging.
No, that of course,
and
that's
people
different.
Like gatekeeping with a lot of things. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So trying things just because they sound fun is, I don't like. For me personally, I'm trying to do that, and it's still kind of difficult.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like as I said in the podcast, I first failed at Blender and I dropped it, but then when I picked it up, I listen, I kind of have a little bit of ADHD, and I don't have the patience to watch through a tutorial, even a 10-minute tutorial, that much. And I kind of hated starting Blender with the donut tutorial. So the first render I did was me just completely messing around in Blender, like not watching its tutorial, like just like a monkey, like smashing keyboards on Blender. And actually, my first render, for the first time I ever did Blender 3D, I think it was good. I made a spaceship. First time I tried to apply like a PBR textures on it, like just copy paste and change the color values on different parts. That's the most sophisticated thing I did at the time. And then when I did that, I kind of had so much fun. I was like, oh my God, like I made something. And then I jumped into donut tutorial. That was my second render. And
I'm actually sort of like that too. I'm gonna tell you a secret that's gonna get my Blender license revoked, but I've never finished the Blender of the donut tutorial. My donut is not actually rendered. Like, it's like I have an image of it, but like it's not finished. I was like, oh, okay. Midway, I gave up. So
I mean, understandable. Yeah, but I was miserable when I finished it. By the way, when I say this, I'm not saying the tutorial was bad. The tutorial was perfect. Like, it's a perfect introduction tutorial for anyone who wants to get a taste of what 3D is, what Blender is. If there's 10 cups of different flavors of ice cream, is the 10 all the things that you can do in Blender? In that tutorial, you taste 6 to 8 of them. That's how good the tutorial is for introduction. And well, with that being said, thank you so much for coming on this podcast. Where can people contact you if they had any questions?
Thank you for having me. People can just, I'm everywhere. I'm very bad at answering on Twitter. I forget that it exists, but like Instagram, I have Discord, and they can always join my Twitch streams that are going to become a regular thing hopefully soon again.
Yeah, the link to the Twitch and everything. I don't think I put the Discord link. I'll put it after we're done recording. Basically, the link of everything is in the captions. You can check it out if you're interested. And I honestly, I'm not saying this just to bullshit you people, because I have Isaac, so I should promote her stuff. No, I'm being legit. I think you should go check out her streams if you're interested in devlogging or video game development or Blender. It's a fun concept. Just one question: do you put lo-fi music background or any music background in your streams?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Just say yes.
Yes, I do.
She does. So you can, even if you're not watching any fellowship, you still have chill backgrounds music. So you have nothing to lose. Go ahead, check it out. All right, thanks so much for coming by, and thank you to anyone who tuned in and listened to this episode. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you so much. Leave a comment down below if you have any suggestions or critiques or just basically anything. You can DM me personally if there's anything on your mind about the podcast. And that's about it. Take care, everyone. Have a good week. Till next episode. Bye.